Welcome to It's Not Just Business Talks with Sonja, where we get down to the real business of how great leaders dug through their own trenches and climbed some epic mountains to get where they are today. Now let's get started with the show.
I'm here today with Patrick Daugherty, seasoned and accomplished marketing and creative veteran with more than 20 years experience leading and developing powerful CPG marketing teams and strategies across a variety of brands and channels. My gosh, that's a lot of information. Good for you. And Daniel Kiefer, a creative with deep experience on the agency and brewery side. And I was going to introduce what he does, but instead I'm going to have Dan do it because the list is so long. Go ahead.
You know what? You nailed it. I have worked at more years than I care to acknowledge, brewery side, agency side, done a lot of brand and retail and promotion work across the board. Blue Moon Artfully Crafted is probably the biggest dent I've made in the advertising world, to use the Steve Jobs phrase, make a dent in the universe. And more recently, I was at CANarchy. I went client side as a Craft Brewery Collective, worked there with Patrick, where we created Wild Basin Boozy sparkling water. I am now working with Ahead of the Curve Strategy, a company that I helped co-found with my partner, Ethan Steenstra. That pretty much brings you up to date.
Dan, awesome.
Proud about the bar, though. Yeah,
tell us about the bar.
Oh yes, and I am a craft beverage expert, which means I like to drink a lot. And I am a co-owner and founder of Beer Station, craft beer bar in Kansas City, Missouri. So I like to talk about alcohol. I like to drink alcohol. I like to market alcohol.
Fantastic. Wow. You've got kind of like alphabet soup / alcohol soup after your name, because that's just a long list of history and experience. And not to do Patrick any injustice on this, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background aside from what I shared with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, you summarized it there, although I think that was some PR maven wrote that for me. I
feel like it was a little bit crafted. So I'd rather hear it from the horse's mouth.
Very similar to Dan. I've been in marketing advertising for, I like to say 20 plus years now instead of the actual number, because then it starts to age you out.
Mm-hmm.
But similar to Dan, even to the extent of owning a bar myself, although mine floundered while Dan's thrives. So I'm no longer owner of that bar anymore in Vail. And
so, there's population issues with things like that, but there's also, if you're drinking the profits, Patrick, I don't know. I don't know.
No, that wasn't it. I think it was rental cost per square foot was the issue we had.
Yeah. Well, Vail's a hard, tough crowd, tough place to, that actually is true for Bend a little bit too now.
But look, I think in summary, again, very similar to Dan, spent most of my time on the agency side across spirits brands, soft drinks, macro beer and craft brewing. Jumped to brand side, similar to Dan at CANarchy. Spent about 15 minutes in cannabis, which was a total shit show. I can expound on that if you want.
Oh my gosh, feel ya.
And then, kind of in the middle of the pandemic, had an opportunity to kind of start my own thing. It's very similar to Dan and Ethan. Mine is called BrandCraft Collective. It's funny though, that started off as, kind of a strategic marketing model for small, call it craft brewers and or smaller CPGs. And it's morphed more into consulting, freelancing kind of a gig.
Right. I'm really curious about that because you both kind of ended up on your feet in that role, right? Where you're coming in as a consultant or a freelancer rather. Is that true, right? It's kind of
yep,
are you both? So we met through Deschutes Brewery, but you've since launched them and they're flying and crushing it and doing great. So where did you both land now? Are you both working with individuals or organizations or kind of in between? Or
why don't you go first, Patrick?
All the above. I mean, hunting and consulting and, hunting, I think, is a lot more of this gig than I knew or was aware. I think Dan can probably attest to that too. And Sonja, owning your own agency as well. but you know, a lot of the networking, and then a lot of, you know, nothing like what we were doing on Deschutes, where it was kind of a long-term big project for, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 months. So nothing, you know, that is a project for the calendar year like that right now, but more in and out freelancing, like I said.
Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy that? I mean, Dan, I want you to have a chance, but didn't you own an agency, Patrick, where you basically, are you and I in the same field, right? Where we both had I have an agency, but you had an agency, and did you sell that or close it or leave it or abandon it or hate it?
Own would not be accurate. I worked at I worked at multiple agencies, but spent 17 years at a big agency headquartered here in Colorado called the Integer Group. It's an Omnicom agency. And when Miller and Coors had their joint venture back in 2008, you know, they went from Milwaukee and Denver into Chicago. And so my daughter and I moved to Chicago, and I opened and ran our office for Miller Coors for 8 years downtown Chicago.
So you were asking, though, what are you doing now post the shoot? So great things to talk about. So I am full-time ahead of the curve strategy. And, you know, you could say it's freelance, but we come in and consult, and we do 2 ways. We do project work or we do retainer work. And with the shoots, it was project work. Mm-hmm. And so we worked with the shoots. Patrick was the one who said, hey, got an opportunity here, would like to bring you in as the creative. So it was a great opportunity, and did that. And then, you know, when the time is up, I will say it's kind of difficult because you get super invested in the brands, and you kind of feel like we help co-create this great campaign with the shoots, and we feel great about the work, and man, I'm invested. But you know, the truth is time's up, you know, that was project work. And so, as you said, they then fly and do well, and they have a great team they've assembled. So that's something that I hadn't anticipated. You know, I think I prefer the long-term retainer model, right? And I say long-term, but we still work in 6 to 12 months at a time, right? Mm-hmm. But that's something that I really wasn't used to, because I think you get so invested in the work and the brands and the people that it's hard to not take it personally, even though that was the deal. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how old your children are. Do you both have kiddos?
Mine is 15, so I need all the help I can get if you have any words of wisdom, because he is not leaving the nest.
At 15, you just put them outside at the end of a rope and throw them food every once in a while, and try to wait until 25 when they grow up. How old are your?
Be thankful if they're 15 that they're still, you know, willing to hang out with you or talk to you.
Oh yeah, Well, mine are 20 to 26, and the top 3 are starting to be, you know, come around as adults, and the younger 3 are still very much in that active space of needing a lot and feeling very entitled and not really. And I love you kids if you ever hear this, but
because your kids are for sure listening to this podcast.
Totally listen to this podcast. But here's the thing. It's kind of like having a kid, though, is what I relate it to, because I feel the same way with every client that we get involved in. You know, you really do have to get invested and input everything into it. And then they treat you like crap. Sorry, not all clients treat us like crap, but then they leave. Right. And that's sort of the arc of being a parent as well. And so you have to, and you can't complain, because that's the deal. You made the baby. So I get where you're coming from.
This is the life we chose.
Yeah. And I love it.
That level of smoke jumping in and out, I'm not really used to. And I wouldn't say to what Dan said, it's a little uneasy, you know, when you get vested and you build relationships, and then, you know, the wire's cut.
Yeah, so absolutely.
It's definitely new.
So, but in your perfect world, then you would be in a situation, I'm putting words in your mouth, but tell me if this is true, where in a sort of a long-term relationship that's 2 to 3 year contract, maybe with more than one client. So you might have 2 kind of going at side by side, or are you just totally invested in one, and then when the wire is cut, you have to go to Thailand?
I would love to say it's the latter with one client, but I just think those days are gone. I think the agency model in a lot of ways is just tougher and tougher because people are parsing out the work. There's specialists for so many pieces of what omnichannel marketing means that I think you have to have more than one client. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd like the stability of saying, they're my client for a year or 2 years, but I don't see it happening. I really don't. I do see it continuing to be a 6 month, 1 year re-up. And let's be honest, it's like contracts in the NFL. It's not really guaranteed anyway. They can say it's a year-long contract, but things change.
Right. I love that you're an NFL player, Dan. That's a very close likeness right there.
I will have some great mixed metaphors. I'm not the sports guy. I'm more of the Star Wars guy.
Oh, I see that. But you've got the Northern Lights right now. But
so, total nerd.
How did you come to work together? I mean, did you know each other for years? Is that, or what was the?
I'll let Patrick go, but Patrick was the wise sage, just a couple of years older than me. But yeah, we worked together for 15 years. I mean, maybe that's not right, Patrick, but it sure feels like I think that's close to right. And he headed up the account side, and I was a creative, and eventually headed up the creative side. So, but why don't you tell our love story?
Ooh, love story.
It's more than 15 years for sure. It's probably damn close to 20, I'm guessing. But Dan and I first, again, we were both at the Integer Group. Dan's on the creative side. I was always on the account side. And I think we first, what pops in my head here is working on a couple key brands for Coors Brewing Company, Keystone being one of them. And Coors Banquet being the other one, which we did some fantastic campaigns for both of those brands. I know Dan brought up Blue Moon and Wild Basin at CANarchy. So Dan and I worked on both of those as well. But it really started in like probably 2001 with Keystone and Coors Banquet. And then worked through the years, Blue Moon. I remember in 04, 05, it probably was 03, 04. But we were working on Blue Moon, and it's right when Blue Moon started off as they had a neon, a name, and an orange garnish. Okay. That's all they had for that brand. And It was really just a regional brand, but it started to really pick up steam. And some clients came to us at the Integer side, the agency side, and just said, look, we've got something here. We don't know what it is, but we sure as shit better start branding it and doing something and being more purposeful around it. And so Dan and I led an effort on the agency side. And I do remember that the first offsite that we did on the agency side, we came up with a Life Unfiltered. And that was the winning one until Dan and I, and it was Dan and I, and I think it might have been one other person, went and sat down with Keith Villa, who was the head brewmaster and invented Blue Moon. And we just listened to him talk, right? Which is often what you do from an agency standpoint, just listen to the background and the story and try to pull out nuggets or try to connect threads. And listening to Keith talk about the idea, the concept, and brewing Blue Moon, it's like we were listening to an artist talk about his creation. It's just that Keith used the brew kettle for his palette instead of canvas, right?
Sure.
So
wow,
that was the big aha moment. And that's where Artfully Crafted, the campaign that we launched and branded Blue Moon with, came from. But the Live a Life Unfiltered, which again, I told you was initially our concept, but that ended up a few years later. Dan, tell me if you remember this.
No, I do. Shock Top,
yeah. All of a sudden,
that's a competitor of Blue Moon. So it's a direct competitor. Well, I mean, they found it on their own, but it's ironic because their product is so similar that you just kind of say, well, maybe it's good we didn't go with that, or just proof that sometimes I don't know if you guys have had that happen. It's like it's creative serendipity. It's kind of like either we're all hacks or
Right.
You can come to, I've heard comedians do that with jokes as well. Sometimes comedians can come up with the same joke, believe it or not.
It is a bit weird. And we've done that. We've created the most gorgeous logo work before where I am so excited. And I mean, I've been through the process, so I know that it came from scratch. And then, 6 months later, you're randomly looking around online and there's something that's so close to it that it's, exactly. It's either they had took it from us or the universe conspired to give us both the same inspiration. I don't know. But it's, definitely happens. Well, so you never actually used Life Unfiltered. So they just got.
No, in fact, we used Artfully Crafted for 10 plus years. And I think that's the thing that I'm always reminded of on that is that as marketers, we get sick of our ideas much faster than the real world. They don't see they're not exposed to it, or they're hyper exposed to so many messages it doesn't get through. I mean, that is one of the first things that I talk about from creative execution is repetition. You got to stick with the plan. You've got to gird your loins when people say, well, I don't like that line, or somebody new comes in and everybody wants to put their fingerprint on it. You've got to stick to the plan. I'm telling you, good things usually happen.
I have to jump in because Dan just when he said the gird the loins, he also, he pointed somewhere. But it just reminded me of something. Okay, I have to tell this story.
Tell me.
So Dan, you're going to know exactly where I'm going with this, but jump in. So
I already know.
So I said that we worked on the Keystone business, and Keystone's this awesome, below premium brand, right? That, for 21-year-olds, right?
Smooth and cheap.
But so the original tagline that they pummeled media TV with was always smooth, never bitter, right? And that came from FCB in New York, Marty Stock and all of his creative and strategic team. And that ran for a number of years. I don't know, call it 5+ years. And awesome campaign. But then Dan and I were brought in from the Integer side, and it was kind of a jump ball of, we got to change this up. We got to reinvigorate this brand. We need some, we're open to new campaigns, right?
Yeah.
And so we led an effort, and one of the ideas presented is the one that we went with for a couple years. And it was always smooth.
Even when you're not.
Always smooth, even when you're not.
Ooh.
And presenting that idea, nice. when you're zeroing in on 21-year-old fraternity college kids was phenomenal, right? So whole out-of-home campaign of always smooth, even when you're not. Like, I have the one example here that I'm going to give, but Dan, do you remember any of like some of those one-liner out-of-home or lines?
Ask her when she's pregnant. Or when ask her when she's due. She's not pregnant. Always smooth, even when you're not. So it's basically, think of the worst situation you could be in. Well, at least your beer's smooth.
And then it's the one I'm thinking of. So Dan and I, we had like our international people from Integer offices in one day. And so I was leading a big effort to go through the entire Coors business. And we got to the Keystone portion, and Dan came in and presented the Always Smooth, Even When You're Not campaign. And these are people that aren't from the U.S., so, Africa, South Africa and Australia.
And they're not 21.
Going through the creative.
They're not 21, correct.
But some of the creative, is nuanced, right? But Dan, he's standing up and he goes, and I'm going to stand up. Dan goes, caught one in the junk. Even when you're not.
No, it was caught the. It was something about, it was a sports thing with the softball. It was like caught a line drive in the junk, and nobody responds. And I'm just kind of like, well, maybe they don't quite get it. So of course I start pointing to my crotch. I go, in the junk, like I'm translating to people from Europe. The junk means my genitals. Not the best moment. Didn't help. Didn't crack a smile.
Oh no!
That's all right. I am very sincere and genuine, and I was trying. I really wasn't trying to make it uncomfortable, but that's just what I do.
Well, that's what just popped to mind when you talked about girding the loins, and so that was probably a dozen years ago. My God, I can't even remember.
That was a fantastic campaign, though. I do remember that.
So how's that work when you guys collaborate? So you in the larger agency world, do you feel like it was like Mad Men, where Patrick is out there working with the clients and Dan's in a room upstairs with a cigar, like working on the design? And
not so much. I'm gonna say we always got our hands really dirty. It's the way I work with Ethan as well now. But when I work with Patrick, we just bring different things, but. I'm a big believer in breaking down the silos. So I don't hold the creative precious and say, go away, account service. It starts with them giving us great direction and he and his people giving us a great brief, right? And then we spitball together and we have a lot of check-ins. And, I think it's a more magical process when everybody's collaborating. And that's really how we work. I mean, we sit there, kind of, nose to nose and build the decks together and rehearse together. Certainly he would always take more of those client meetings, but we were in a lot of those together. And I think the only thing that I would say is like Mad Men was like probably being at bars till 1 and 2 in the morning, on a Tuesday night before a meeting. I mean, I don't know how we did it. We were younger. It was fun. I think I would die now.
Oh my God.
I totally agree that it's much more of a collaborative process. And I think that is always better than not. And, for the Mad Men aspect, the only thing Mad Men about it is, we came from, again, retail shopping from a core competency. So, we got dirty a lot, it wasn't the big flashy. I mean, we were in Denver, we weren't in, and then ultimately Chicago, but we weren't Madison Avenue.
I would actually
we did have a beer on tap in Chicago. I had that put in right away. So, we would have that flowing often.
In the office. Yeah, no question. When we had our offices before COVID, we had a full, if you were a client, you walked into our doors, it was like polite, tea, coffee, water, soda, beer, wine, cocktail. Like, what do you want? And you know what? I think 99%, I'm not even exaggerating of the time, they went for a beer, a wine, or a cocktail. I can't remember. I think I might've served tea once to anybody or had somebody serve tea once. So, I think there's that enigma about agencies and marketing in general.
So let me ask you a question on that. So, everybody's probably, you've heard it's what, I don't know if it's true or not, but people always say like, you want to be the best part of their day. This is the exciting part of your client's job. They're talking about spreadsheets and ops a lot of times. They're talking about budgets. Do you hold to that? Do you believe that as well? Like, do you try to keep a mystique about it, or do you always keep it loose and fun? Because I know you're a pretty big personality.
We're very grassroots, and that's how I like it, because I have to live in my job, and I don't just work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I work 7 days a week, and I'm percolating all the time as well. So I have to love what I do to do that. And all of our team are very much, not because I chose a persona per se, but are fun, gregarious, down to earth. Our offices were, people came in flip-flops and bicycles and beer and dogs, and our clients like that because it really makes there was no charade. We don't have an office on Madison Avenue either. We have clients on Madison Avenue, right? But we don't have offices there. And people fly into Bend because it's a cool place to come visit. So we've had clients fly in from Australia, from the East Coast, from anywhere in the world really, and to come to Bend. And then that's what they don't want a facade. That we want to be that fun, like, okay, this is where the there's obviously a lot of strategy, but there's obviously a lot of creative fun, and it is exactly that. Yeah. I had one client say he gets really excited when he gets an email from us because he knows it's like Christmas. Like, what do I get to look at? Like round 2. Da, 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 da. So yeah, sure. Don't you think that's how it was? It wasn't.
Yeah, no, I do. And I love what you said about living in your job or your work. I know I heard this maybe 10 years ago too. The agency Patrick and I used to work at had a great culture at the time. And, they did a lot of kind of personality tests. And it may sound a little bit like, whoa, you're getting in my head. But the truth is, like, almost every creative that took the test, their work self and their out of work self were very aligned. Mm-hmm. And apparently it's not true for a lot of industries, which I've always felt great, right? I can wear that t-shirt. I can, maybe have a little bit of a different perspective, come off a little wacky, but you get to truly be your authentic self, which is the best way to be. In a lot of industries, 100%. You can't do that.
That's it. You nailed it, Dan.
I would just agree with kind of that idea that, make it the best part of their day, from an agency standpoint, but I will just correlate it to like when I went to CANarchy and Dan joined me at CANarchy, I preferred spending as much time as I could on the marketing and the creation and the idea aspect as opposed to budgets and board meetings. I mean,
oh, good Lord. Yeah.
So it was the best part of the day. And so, I mean, makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only hard part, and Dan actually brought this up in one of our previous lives of meetings. Well, actually, it was with Ross, the animator, and you take feedback really well. And I struggle with feedback when it's not positive, even though I know it's like going, akin to going into a dressing room and coming out with 3 different outfits, and your friend is saying, "Well, I like that one," or "I don't like that one." You don't take it personal, but I find that I have a hard time getting client feedback. And you said that you actually, from your world, they teach courses in that, how to just take feedback well. And
yeah, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It just means that I try to separate the emotion of it. And I mean, honest to God, if you know me, I'm an open book, and people that know me that watch this are going to say, yeah, you're not so good at hiding your emotions, because I'm not. I'm an open book, but
I love it.
I think what I've learned is to try to separate constructive criticism or strategic input, versus personal. But I mean, I'm extremely emotional as well. So sometimes I just have to go cool off. And a lot of times Patrick, as well as Ethan Steenstra now, are my consigliere, or my, they're my calm down guys. Like, I feel like I'm the underball. I'm like a foot soldier in the mob, and I'm going to them and saying, "Hey, these motherfuckers, they disrespected us. Oh, I'm so angry," and they say, whoa. It's not good for business. You can bleep that out, by the way. And they get me to kind of
not edit. The only thing I'm editing out is the beep maybe later, but
okay. They try to get me to calm down, but I mean, it is hard, but I just try to realize, like, a lot of times input makes it better. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or hey, I may think it's a stupid point, but then let's make it bulletproof.
Look, I think because we've got Dan on the couch right now. I mean, what makes him so good isn't just the creative and the ideas and the collaboration and the leadership. It's the fact that he can represent the brand and he can take feedback without getting defensive.
Mm-hmm.
And
right,
because he just said it, input makes it better, and that's not just lip service. That's truth. And he will push back and he will defend work and try to steer it into where he wants it. But at the end of the day, clients make the decision, even if Dan or I disagree. Mm-hmm. When we're on the agency side, when we're on the brand side, when Dan and I were both at CANarchy, we used to sit in our office and we'd be struggling between a couple of concepts. And I remember just saying, just for a second, Dan, pause for a second, because if we go with A or B, it's going to be our choice. Like, we decide now. I mean, that was the intoxicating part of being on the brand side.
Oh, I love it. I mean, what's that from when you say the brand side versus the account side?
Brewery side versus, I mean, we spent a lot of time together at the agency side, right? Where you are a consultant.
Yeah.
You present ideas and you can sell and you can persuade, but ultimate authority resides with the client, right?
Right.
When we were on the brewery side, on the brand side,
right,
I do remember being in, my office late at night with Dan and just pausing and being like, whatever we decide, dude, is up to you and me right now. Like,
right. I got you. Yeah. And is there a tremendous amount of weight that goes with that? Like, are you off the hook if you don't have to make those decisions a little bit?
Yeah, I was going to say, I find it slightly terrifying. It's like, a friend of mine, he keeps donkeys, right? It's Colorado. And the donkeys, they broke out of their pen like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh my God, you must have been so stressed. Where did you find them? And he's like 2 feet from the pen. Like, they were just so terrified of the open world. They couldn't move past where they're supposed to be anyway. And that's what I found a little bit, because I feel like as a creative, I get paid to see every possibility and say, well, what if A, what if B? Ooh, we could do that. We could do this. It's having a lot of different possibilities. So I thought it was a really cool experience, but I was glad to have somebody like Patrick there that ultimately was that decision maker.
And you didn't feel the weight of fear of that, Patrick?
I wouldn't say fear. It's just, look, I think that there's this spectrum of democracy and dictatorship that you have to toggle between.
Yeah.
And if you're on either edge, it's terrible. Nobody wants to live in an authoritative dictatorship, and nobody wants to, all ideas are taken, right? And input's important, but at some point, make a effing decision.
Yeah.
And at some point, you have to do that. And that's always been my role, whether it was agency side or brand and brewery side. Sometimes you take it with a leap of faith or gut feel. You can't overanalyze, but you have to move shit forward. And
so true. And I mean, there's one thing that has happened in the more recent years, and that is data. And I am not a data nerd, but I become one because sometimes when I have to gut check something, I can either back it up or dismantle it based on the data and the feedback I get. And we can split test things, and we can just get some information to make me feel a little bit more confident about what we're doing sometimes too.
But I love that, because otherwise it's it's just an opinion, contest. And, who's going to win that? The client, because it's their dollars ultimately. I mean, you try to be persuasive, but facts don't lie to some degree. I think that's a great point too on, where work is going. I feel like there's so much data out there now. It's important to have people that can actually sort through it and give you a human truth. How do you take that data and come up with some kind of an insight into human behavior? And I think that's what I love about our industry too, where I feel like they can't replace us. You can
100%.
You can find data 7 ways to Sunday, but then finding that kind of weird way to look at it. I don't know. I was trying to think of what the brand that I think it was maybe Crispin that Patrick and I worked on, and the fact was, somehow we took it where nobody wanted to take it. Nobody wanted to put it on specials on a Tuesday or a Friday or a Thursday, because it was just too small of a brand. And so that's where you kind of look at it and say, okay, well, look here, look how many accounts that carry it have patios. You know what? Let's be the summer patio brunch brand, right? Mm-hmm. And it was really taking lemons and turning it into lemonade. But all of a sudden now everybody's like, yeah, I see where that fits in the portfolio. And you just feel like, wow, we cracked a really cool way to look at the brand. Nobody wants it, but it's got patios. So there's your idea.
Yeah, I love it.
I firmly believe that data and insights have to be coupled with gut and intuition.
100%.
It's not either or, it's both and, right?
Well, and there's this, ongoing concern, or I don't know if it's a concern, reality that artificial intelligence has an ever increasing footprint in our industry. The fact of the matter is, though, that everything that we do with analytics and that type of data has a human touch on it. We have to have a human literally taking it and teaching and informing AI what we want it to continue to do. It doesn't get to do that by itself, even if you're Mark Zuckerberg.
Did you guys see? So I love collecting pop culture facts, but somebody wrote an AI Nirvana song. They plugged in everything they knew about Nirvana, all the lyrics, and it spit out a song, which is kind of nonsensical, but it does sound like a Nirvana song, surprisingly. Okay. But then to your point, they had to have a human band, like a Nirvana cover band, actually interpret it and sing it. And it's wild. Like look it up and see what you think. It's kind of scary.
AI. Yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah. For everybody at home, that's your takeaway. Get the Nirvana AI.
Please.
So actually what I want to do though is, because we can have many more of these conversations, and I will behind the scenes anyway with you guys, because I absolutely adore you. And you're the ones that opened the door to me originally with Deschutes Brewery. So thank you again for that. Still working with those guys. I
don't remember it that way, but awesome. I'll take it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Still, that relationship's still strong, and I adore them and I adore that brand. So that was a rocker for me. But
absolutely, everybody go look for your Fresh Family, family beers.
Fresh Family IPA. Let's go. But where can people find you? Let's just say someone's listening and they're like, oh man, that Dan guy, that Patrick guy, I want to work with them. Where do they look you up? Like your website? Tell me about that.
For me, it's ahead of the curve strategy. So you can look up AOTC strategy, ahead of the curve strategy, or just you can find us our webpage, find me on LinkedIn. And anybody, I guess, specializing in CPG, but specifically more alc bev. So if you have an alcohol beverage brand, we really pride ourselves in knowing the industry and delivering top-notch strategy and creative. So whether that's you need help with portfolio management, you need a campaign, you need to rebrand, or I think it all starts with brand identity. Does your brewery or your winery know who they are? Yep. Come to us. We'd love to talk.
Awesome. Fantastic, Dan. Dan Kiefer, Kiefer.
That's it.
Patrick, will you give me your little bio?
Well, I'm like the cobbler's kid who doesn't have his own shoes. I don't have a website like Dan. So, you can find me on LinkedIn. My direct email is patrick@brandcraftcollective.com.
Easy to find you. Also, people can find you through me because good chances are if I'm working with anyone in that Bev Alc space, that I would be tapping both of you because you're both brilliant and I really adore you. So thank you for being on here today.
Thanks for listening to It's Not Just Business Talks with Sonja, a real-life podcast to inspire you. We'll see you again next time, and if this is your jam, click subscribe to get future episodes.